Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of JKL Media Podcast. Thank you for letting us take a week off. I had a marriage to attend to in New Orleans, and it was lovely. And to tell you how cool of a wedding it was, I'm going to ask you to put your geek hat on. What do you think would be one of the coolest ways for a wedding to start that would make nerds like us happy?
Personalized greeting from a star.
Marriage is
Oh,
what
yeah.
brings us together.
Together today. The late, great Peter Cook.
The guy who was doing the marriage was best friends of the bride and was ordained, and that's how he started. He did the whole thing.
That's fantastic.
The whole thing with the
Fantastic.
accent. It was absolutely beautiful.
One of
Awesome.
the best movies ever made.
Yes. Rest in peace, Rob Reiner. We should do a Rob Reiner discussion
Yeah,
soon.
Mm.
that'd be
Um,
good.
yes, it is. We haven't ever talked Misery, have we?
Nope. Or Stand By Me.
Yeah, either one. Yeah. Okay,
Mm.
we'll do that. But we're going to quit trying to program the podcast on the air, and we are talking Expanse. I am Jesse Jackson. Joining me, as always, is Lou
Hello.
and Karen.
Hello.
And today we are talking Home. Home, the fifth episode of season 2 of The Expanse, originally aired February 22nd, 2017. So that's roughly 8 years ago. And I really want to apologize because we had a really strong cliffhanger, and then I had to be off for a week. So we've had to wait 2 weeks for Karen and I to watch it, though Lou has
No, I
seen the whole
I
series.
watched it.
Oh, you did. You just
Yeah.
you didn't wait for me.
No,
I
no
did wait.
offense, but
Yeah. So yeah, let's do quick thoughts, Karen.
I have mixed emotions. Although I love the titles of these. There's a lot of home references, and I again, mixed feelings because the ending was a little bit of a downer for me personally, but it was a great way to end that story.
All right, Lou.
Yeah, I think this is a tragically beautiful episode. I think the final scenes with Miller and Julie were beautifully done. And the whole, I don't know, the special effects of how the interior of Eros looked, and especially her hotel room, kind of gave me like a I don't know, maybe like a Frozen vibe or something like that.
A
It was
little bit, sure.
just very beautifully done, and
Very ephemeral.
a very proper ending to the Miller character, I think.
Can I ask you a question, Lou?
You may.
Do the
I saw
Cowboys
that.
suck or what? I'm sorry.
I forget about that.
Yes, they do.
No, come on.
Yep, they do.
But you
Okay.
have the U.S. hockey team, so
Yes, we
Oh
did.
my God, they're
Oh, we
so
can.
good, right?
mm,
Both
Yes,
yes.
female and
both.
male.
Yep.
And one of them made us very proud post game, and one of us made us shake our head. But
One of them,
we
yep.
won't go
We
into
won't get
that
into
now.
that. Although maybe they just McDonald's. Yeah, so I saw that this is the ending of the first book, this
That
episode.
is correct.
Okay. So it says that we're starting on one of the short stories next week. And
Okay.
I just thought maybe you could, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but
No, I don't.
where are we starting?
I don't
Okay.
know. Sorry.
So no worries.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure, that we were on the same page there. And I also saw that this is the story that they pitched to the network to get this show made.
Oh, really? I didn't
That
know
was
that.
cool. Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway,
So I loved the episode. I did not look in advance to see if this is the last we will see of Thomas Jane, except maybe in flashbacks. I don't know if that's spoilery or not, Lou, to share, But this reminded me a little bit, just a little bit of Star Trek One, the ending of Star Trek
Mm,
One,
Hmm. Interesting. Good comparison.
with
yeah, it is.
Voyager and Decker and
V'ger.
yeah, V'ger.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's reminded me a little bit of that. I just thought it was a really well done, and I did not know it was the end of the first book, but this did feel like it could have been a season ending,
Hmm.
especially one of the things that Josh Whedon always talked about is that when he ended Buffy and Angel, he would always wrap up the storyline as if they weren't going to get a renewal, but leave enough open threads, if they did, he would have a place to go. So yeah, I think there's often on these episodes, there's a lot of multiple story going on. This one, it's pretty straightforward. And I guess since we're talking about, let's just go straight to the ending. It might be going back anticlimactic, but I didn't think so. But I liked this ending. I liked how he has been obsessed with Julie. He felt bad he couldn't find her, finding her dead. He had affection for her, this illusion of her, and the idea that like when I see him talking to her and calling her kid, and then when he opens up the spacesuit, I'm like, oh my God, you're just going to be infected. And I didn't see that was going, or I don't know where we're going, we're going to go together. I thought it was very touching and very lovely. And that it just was a really powerful ending. Sad, I agree, Karen, but it feels like a redemption to Miller that he's able to save Earth, he's able to save the people on the Rossi, and he's able to quote unquote get the girl.
Right.
Karen, let's get your thoughts first.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was a great ending. I'm mostly joshing about being upset. I'm not
Sure.
upset at all.
You're losing one of your favorite characters.
Right, because I thought he gave this cynical kind of Han Solo-y element to the show. And maybe we'll get that with Bobby because she does seem a little bit in that direction, although more convicted, not convicted, with more of
Yeah.
a conviction.
Conviction. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think the ending was incredibly poignant, poetic. I had a feeling when he was talking to Holden and they were talking about getting a drink, and I was like, oh, he's not going to make it. Because whenever a character says they're going to meet up with someone that they've been feuding with and they're going to pal around, I feel like that's the death knell for that character. And I think it was the only way once they realized that it was Julie that was powering this, that when he found out that Julie still had a humanity, that he was going to have to go with her and make sure that her demise was not alone. And that is so powerful. Personally, I would have loved an HEA. That's my deal. I like the happy ever after thing, but I think that this might have been a happy ever after for him. He couldn't have Julie, and it was the only thing that gave his life purpose for a while there. And I think being able to, live the rest of his life with her, essentially, even though it was only a few minutes, was him fulfilling that wish of his. And also seeing the bird was incredibly lovely. I agree with you, Lou, that the imagery with all the floating particles and it being a little hazy, it made it incredibly gorgeous. And the first time I watched it, which was a week and a half ago or so, I had a little tear in the corner of my eye when I watched it because it was sad and poignant. But also, I felt happy that he got to kiss her and hold her hand and be with her right at the end. Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it was a great ending for that story. I'm just sad because I like Thomas Jane and his character on the show.
Lou, from you're looking at this from two perspectives. One, when you really originally watched it, and second, during a rewatch. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first time through, I think I was more focused on Miller's journey as opposed to Julie's. And so this time I was able to appreciate her side of the story more. The episode kind of reminds me in an echoey way of the original Star Trek episode, The Devil in the Dark, where these miners on this planet, they're being killed off, and they think that there's this monster running around killing them all off. And then they find out that it's because they've been just accidentally destroying her eggs of this creature. And we find out that this Horta is a mother just protecting its eggs. And much the same way in this episode, where we think that the protomolecule is behind all these behaviors of Eros, trying to avoid the missiles and that, it turns out it's just that it's Julie and she just wants to go home. And that gives this whole, it makes the whole, retroactively, it makes the whole arc of this particular part of the story much, I think, much more personal and poignant because of that. And it makes the story grounded in human emotions and longing. So I just think it's a really well-crafted sequence in this arc of the series. And there's a real, like I mentioned Frozen before, but I think what I'm really trying to say is there's a real fairy tale aspect to the scenes with Holden, with Miller and Julie in the hotel room. It's echoing like Sleeping Beauty. He's giving her a kiss and things like that, and she's this is an idealized form of her body made via the protomolecule, and it's interesting that she is controlling the protomolecule, even though initially the protomolecule infected her. It's become a reversal in that her consciousness now is now what's guiding and driving Eros as it makes its way towards Earth. And it's just really, I just think it's just a really lovely sequence on all fronts, acting, writing, special effects, and like them holding hands, and even though she says she can't feel her hands and that, and then he gives her a kiss, and it's for her who's feeling lonely, it's a bit of human contact that she can get. And for Miller, it's the culmination of his arc that he fell in love with this idealized version of Julie, and he ends up meeting an idealized version of her as well. And then he convinces her to not to go to Earth, but to go to Venus. And that last shot of Eros crashing into Venus, I think, is a pretty nice ending to the that arc. Though the pragmatic side of me is instantly going, well, is all of that protomolecule destroyed, or is
Of
some
course
of it going
not.
to survive? And if it does, what's going to happen to Venus? So all these other questions, like this is the strength of a good serialized storytelling narrate arc, is that questions are answered, but then new questions are raised, and this is what this particular episode has done. And even the crew of the Rocinante, who have had a Holden's had a pretty prickly relationship with Miller. Nadia has come around to him. I think they are connected on a level that Holden cannot appreciate. And I don't want to say too much about why I think that connection between the Miller and why am I saying her name wrong now? No,
Naomi.
Naomi, why that connection is so strong, but that will be something to keep to put a flag on or a lantern on going forward. And there's not too much else about this episode to because this is closing off a major subplot. The rest of the episode around it is just stressing. The only really significant thing I think is that Christian has found out that Holden is still alive. So that's a big get. And yeah, it's just it does feel like the conclusion of a lot of things, but there are things that are being put into motion as well in this episode. So it's just overall It's a really strong episode. It's probably one of the hardest episodes to break down by storyline because what's happening outside of the Miller Julie storyline is incidental in this episode, and there's not really a lot to discuss about those, at least from my perspective.
I love that the two things that are concerning the Miller storyline are Eros and Venus, which are both associated with love.
Love, yep. Good catch.
Um,
Ooh, I did not
and
catch that, but really well done.
also, not just Christian, but the whole UN finds out that Miller's alive. Not Miller,
Yeah.
Holden.
Holden, that Holden's alive. Christian, that's definitely the person you want to find out, but
Mhm.
the whole UN knows now. So,
Yeah,
anyway,
I like that it's vague. We don't know what life is. You would think this Miller and Julie are dead, and but with this proto matter, you don't know what that entails. So you certainly, if you want a happy ending, can put in your mind that, that they're able to survive even in I assume Venus is mostly liquid, isn't it? I was trying to remember my basics.
Mostly gas.
Okay.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
very hot.
Like the atmosphere
Yeah.
is mostly gas. Yeah, and it's really
Yeah.
hot.
So I like the ending, and I like to think that somewhere in the universe they're together.
Yep.
So let's work backwards. I do think, and everything in this story leads to that moment, but
Hmm.
there were a couple of nice moments. I think that the Rossi's journey of not only having to try to catch up to Eros and Mars, the UN, and I'm assuming that at this point the UN is the governing body of Earth, right? Like the Secretary General or this council rules, because they
Yep.
talked about a Martian prime minister, but they don't talk about it. I I have questions about the logistics of telling the world that, hey, we're about to get hit by an asteroid. Everyone get in your personal spaceships or go to these places so we can try to. And I'm thinking of what is this show that just came back second season? Oh, damn it, where they're in a cavern. Oh, never mind. We'll
Silo?
cut this out.
Paradise?
Yeah, Paradise.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
A
You know,
bubble.
Yeah, they're in, yeah. So I do think there were some nice moments where we do find out they find out Holden's live, and Holden says, "Trust Johnson. If you give us control, we will make sure that Eros is destroyed. So we will save Earth. You're going to have to trust us. We're going to have to work together." We get the nice storyline of Mars going, "Yeah, we won't fight against you, but we're not going to help you. We don't." And the so I really like the Rossies having to push themselves physically with the juice, everything to try to get there, and them trying to save Miller. And he even calls out, there was a time not that long ago you guys would be helping me to be killed. Anything you want about the Rossi and this discussion, and then we'll go to the UN as our last point. Lou, anything about that? And I did like the idea that they did pour out that drink, that
Mm.
gin. Just as a point of order, I am not a drinker, but on behalf of my wife, since she got very sick on gin as a high school student before class, she's never drank gin since.
Wine for
But
me.
uh,
Red wine for me.
You
yeah,
got sick
so
on red wine?
yeah, but I thought that was lovely at the end where they mourned him. Lou, anything about the Rossi storyline?
I'm just scanning the summary here, trying to see if there's anything that's picking at me, but I can't really think of anything. I guess it's cool to see how they get juiced up when they do the heavy G's and that. So that's a nice show moment because they've talked about the fact that going under
Yeah,
heavy G's is very stressful, and it's something that every time they enter into, it's something that you should keep or be a little more focused on going forward. So that's just planting a flag there about that. But the high G stuff, it's just from a technical point of view, it's just showing that the show is very grounded scientifically, which is cool. And it's also a cool way to show that how fast Eros is going because the Rocinante cannot keep up to it.
Yeah.
And other than that, there's you've already mentioned the drink moment. I don't really have anything else about the Rocinante stuff.
First of all, they call Holden Captain outright in this
Yeah,
episode.
a lot. Yeah.
So it's nice to see that they have come together as a crew. I also enjoyed the look that Holden and Naomi, at least Holden looked at Naomi when she said, "Don't go all Holden on us." That was funny. Where he's, "What? What are you talking about?" It reminds me of on sitcoms where someone goes, "Of course, you mean that in a good way, right?" Britta on Community.
Yeah.
Also, one of the things I'm wondering about is all of Miller's stuff is still on the Rossi, right? So that means those beads are still there. I'm wondering if they come up again. Let's see. There was something else too.
I think it's a big moment that Miller trusts Holden.
Yeah, definitely.
It takes the Rossi out of its acceleration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
their conversation back and forth I thought was really great. Nicely done, the two actors. I also I really enjoy them as a crew. I think Alex has bristled a bit at Holden. He's under the radar bristly at Holden.
Yeah.
And him just saying, "Okay, you make the call. We're going to go after the Eros or we're going to back off. And we'll probably die if we go after it." And Holden thinks, and the rest of the crew is on tenterhooks there. And then he says, "We got to go after him." And Alex is right there. So I thought that was good too. I think there's a lot of little beats in the other storylines that really do make a big statement
Hmm.
that Holden is the kind of person he is. I like that Christian realizes that they can trust Holden,
Yes.
and that's really good, especially when they come back the second time and they're like, "Look, just trust us on this. We're going to get this taken care of, but you got to trust us on this." And that she says, and I think they set that whole thing up when Christian went to talk to his mother, that she knows about what kind of a person he is based on his upbringing and the things that they've seen. So yeah, I do think that it was key that Holden resurfaces at this point, because otherwise they wouldn't have gone with Fred. It had to be Holden as the go-between. So
Yeah, and we get some nice scenes with Fred and what will soon be Karen's favorite character, right, Lou?
Yep,
Uh,
drummer.
yeah, drummer with
You-
you're the most powerful man in the universe. Good, then get me a cup of coffee.
and she gives him the
Yeah,
this thing.
the
Yeah,
finger,
I'm
whatever.
guessing that's the finger, yeah.
I
Yeah,
assume that's a version of the finger in the future. And then
yeah.
later she brings him a cup of coffee and they share a laugh together. I think it's interesting that I don't quite understand why Christian thought she needed to stay there.
Captain going down with the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that. And
Can't escape if
yeah,
she's dooming the rest
yeah.
of Earth.
I love how Enright is continuing to be a weasel.
He's a
Because
dick.
And a bad one.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I did love Christian's video conference with her husband and the awkwardness of the delay, which
Every time I
is
see him,
sure,
I always think of the cereal commercials he did in
Mm,
Canada.
yeah,
I know he's on Friends too, but
yeah,
or not Friends, Big Bang Theory.
right.
But
yeah.
yeah, I always see those Rice Krispie cereal commercials. Sorry,
But
that's the funniest side.
no, I love their conversation and about how he's had to put up with her doing these things and how did he put it? Why did I have to fall in love with a brilliant woman or
Mm.
something? And she goes, I guess you're just lucky. Karen, as one of my fellow romantists, what'd you think of that?
They were great too. You can tell who wears the pants in that family, and it's her. Especially when he says, "Okay, you're gonna let me talk and you're gonna let me finish," and he doesn't even get like a whole minute
Yeah.
into the rest of what he's saying before she interrupts him again and finishes up their conversation. It shows that they've been married a long time.
Yeah.
And she says, "I'd love to be with you there to tend to your sad little garden." It was just very sweet, the two of them talking together. I like the realism they brought to it that there's a delay. They didn't have to put that in. They could have just spoken back and forth, but this makes it more real to us that there's a delay. And I think they're so cute together, especially in this episode. I liked their discussion on the roof earlier in the season, and I think that this conversation was a continuation of that camaraderie and their deep connection.
Yes, I
And
agree.
I think here's another meaning of the word home, where she has to stay there in
Yeah.
her home. And I do think that it's that she couldn't ask that of Earth without her. She couldn't escape when
Hmm.
she's asking the rest of Earth to be destroyed, essentially. Whether she feels like she's the captain or not, there's this sense of it's not being a martyr at all. It's her, I'm not going to put this the right way, I don't
Maternal.
think, but yeah, that's a good way to put it. Very maternal, caring for everyone on Earth. And that's been her whole MO is Earth is her home. And so she does everything in service of that. And so she can't go to be with her husband because that's not what she's about. So,
Yeah. Any thoughts, Lou?
Home is where the heart is. And I think for every character or for every storyline, they are in their home or they find their home. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. Just certain things to keep in mind. Earth has just expended half of its nuclear armament, so
Mm.
they're in a more vulnerable position than they've been in a long time from that perspective. And yeah, other than that, I just think it was a really beautifully done storyline, closing out this love story between Julie and Miller. And Karen mentioned the use of Eros and Venus with their love aspects as well. I think adds a nice the little cherry on the top of this cake
a
and
wink.
a wink.
Yeah.
And it's just there's something about TV series, and it's not always. There are some original projects out there that shine. I can think of Breaking Bad or something like that, but you can tell sometimes when a series is based on a previous work that it just has that extra layer of depth to it that you don't often get with the regular TV series. And I think that this show really benefits greatly from the fact that it's based on a series of books. And I just think that that's what allows for those extra layers. There's like Severance and Pluribus have done it without being based on books, but I'm thinking like of the Lord of the Rings movies and this. I just find that something more as a reader, I appreciate these series more because they feel more esque in a way than other shows. So
They have a better foundation for sure.
yeah, yeah, better world
Yeah,
building. And
I
yeah.
also think the parts with Aaron Wright were important because it's just reinforcing what a terrible person he is. And I would love to see him go down at some point. That's just my thought.
Yep. So it'll be interesting now to see how the show fills this Miller hole. And I think that you both are going to like how they do that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we don't have a connection to series anymore, right?
Series. No.
yeah. All right. So here's a couple things that I've picked up from your thoughts, and I'd love, as we wrap this up, for you to share what we've missed. You've dropped a hint about this juice. There may be a cost. This is my speculation on going through that high G's, doing that adrenaline. I'm wondering anytime I talk about a drug, I worry about addiction, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
I think about that. One, we know that the Belters, Mars, and Earth have this, there is an uneasiness anyway, and Mars not agreeing to help them. There, I'm not going to stand in the way. I won't stop the lifeguard from going to you and giving you CPR, but I'm not going to help him, to do a really lame analogy. This show has been as much about politics as it's been about space adventures.
We've seen that Alex is he they've hinted that maybe he is slightly addicted, right? Because when he first sat down in the chair, he pushed that drug into his system and they weren't going to high G. He
Yeah,
didn't need it. That's
yeah,
my take on it, at
yeah.
least.
Also, I have a question. Why was the young guy getting the tattoos on his neck?
Oh, he
I
was going into the OPA. He was like pledging his
Okay,
allegiance to the
and
OPA.
that's what
That's
that
my thought, at
means.
least.
That what those tattoos mean?
I think so, because Naomi has one as well.
Can you confirm that, Lou, or is that too
Yep.
spoilery?
Yep. No, no,
Okay.
that's true. Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I'm just
so I
surprised that how you're not jumping on what the other part of what Karen said about who else had that tattoo.
Naomi?
yeah, but
No.
we've already established she's part of OPA, right?
Have we?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they've
Okay.
talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
or at least that
Uh
she was in the OPA.
Okay.
yeah, now
Say no more.
maybe she has other connections or something. Yeah, so I am curious, where do we go from here? I think it's a really great, it does seem weird, and I guess just from
There is still some proto-molecule out there.
Mm,
yes, they have that hidden. But you had said that this was not the major storyline for forever. So I see how they're wrapping it up.
But I would treat the proto-molecule as like the MacGuffin of the story.
Okay.
So
sure.
it's
Yeah, we
always
still have
there to
Mao and we
drive,
still,
it's
yeah.
always there to drive the narrative forward.
I'm assuming not there's more because I can't imagine that Mao would put all of it out there. I don't
Yeah.
know. You're smiling a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. I love where we're going on this. I do think it's interesting that you could have wrapped this up in the first season, but they didn't want to rush the storyline. And
I dig
so
that.
I wonder if they knew they were going to get two seasons to begin with, or how did they know? Because it seems like you would have wanted to one season, one book, right? So I'm curious of the behind the scenes on that. But I'm in loving the series, loving the story, and excited to go where to see where we're going next. I can't,
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
we also found out in this episode that it doesn't care about deceased people that are dead already. I wanted to
uh,
make sure that we
what do you
touched on
mean?
that. Miller is in the pachinko parlor and he sees the guy that they killed and he says to Holden, they don't seem to care about dead people.
Okay, the
yeah,
proto-molecule. Yes. Okay.
And I'm assuming that's something they put in on purpose as well.
Hmm.
Sorry about that.
No problem. That's a good catch. Yep.
yeah.
Then all I wanted to add was that we know that the show is going to do something different because the title of the next episode is Paradigm Shift.
All
Right.
right. Nice to tell us that, right?
I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, so I can't think of anything else. Karen, anything else we want to talk about?
No, that's where I should have waited for the pachinko parlor thing
Oh, no, no, that's
and
good.
not interrupt.
No, you're
No, I'm
good.
good. I think we
Okay.
covered everything here.
Is there anything we're missing, Lou, that is incredibly important?
No, I don't think so. Nothing's coming
Okay.
to mind. No,
All right.
you guys are on the ball.
Yes,
Good.
and loving this story, loving this journey. By the way, I read an article that recommended For All Mankind, someone which is a series I adore on Apple, and they said fans of The Expanse should check it out for a more optimistic version of the future. But
Hmm,
they said it is a very much a spiritual descendant to The Expanse, which I thought was pretty cool since I
hmm,
adore For All Mankind.
that's awesome.
Right.
That's interesting. I'm trying
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've watched For All I Can. I'm not really seeing the connection between the two
It's also
series, but
based on books.
is it?
I
I
don't know
think
if
so.
it,
I don't
I don't
think
know.
so.
Is it not?
I
I
don't think
think maybe
so.
just because it's a more realistic look at space.
That's an
I
Mm.
don't know.
alternate. It's an
Yeah,
alternate future.
yeah. It's one of my favorite
I
series. I
think it's
just
got
really
more in
love it.
relationship to like the Man in the High Castle than it does to
Mm.
Yeah.
Expanse, but
Uh,
that's just
uh,
me.
yeah.
Yep. Their next season's starting soon too, right?
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just announced it.
Yeah. All right, Karen, if someone wants to reach you or the show, how can they?
We're not going to rate.
Oh, yeah, we're inconsistent.
I
So,
know.
yeah. But yes, we will rate this episode. I am gonna give it 9.5 just because I holding in the spirit of performance appraisals, no one gets a 5, no matter how good of a job they
Mm.
do. I'm gonna give this one 9.5 out of 10 cups of coffee.
Excellent. I'm also going to give it 9.5, and I was going to say cups of coffee, but I'll give it 9.5 toasts.
Okay.
Very nice. I'll give it 9 errant nuclear missiles.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right. So, Karen, now, if someone wants to reach you, how can they?
They can email the show at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. And I am at Oliveria on social media, and my blog is alliestuff.com.
And Lou?
You can, of course, reach us all and me at our flagship YouTube channel, the JKL Media Reviews, where we're currently doing The Expanse, and we're on pause with Pluribus. And we've covered off a whole raft of other series, short run series. Station 11, I keep plugging that one because I think that
Mm,
is a very overlooked miniseries that
I
deserves
agree.
more attention than it
Yes.
gets. And we also have a bunch of, oddly enough, Bruce Springsteen material for you to wade through
And
as
Stephen
well.
Odd.
King.
And Stephen King, but I think Bruce is ahead by now.
Let's
Could
catch
be.
up with Stephen King,
Yeah.
shall we?
Yes.
And we also do occasionally music, books, comics, and just anything in the pop culture landscape that captures our attention or has worked its way into our hearts. Other than that, you can find me over at my own YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, where all our archived episodes of Babylon 5 plus the animated movie can be found. And my writer and Stephen King podcast episodes are there as well. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzma, Sytsma.
And I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on most social media of to discuss Pluribus. We wrapping up, we had Daniel Thompson from the Deck the Hallmark podcast, and they also do an episode called the Dis List, which is where a guest brings a top 10 list and Bran and Dan discuss it and make changes to it. And then the guest has to pick which of the revised list is the one they would pick. And I was a guest on that doing top 80s rock pop artists.
Hmm.
And I don't think you'll have to guess very hard who I picked as number one.
Spandau
Yes.
Ballet. That was it,
And
right? Spandau
and
Ballet.
the boys gave me a hard time about that, but they did compliment me that I was true to my brand. It was a really fun discussion, and I would love for you guys to check that out. This list, wherever you find a podcast. All right, we will be back next week to talk another episode of Expanse. Soon, we're going to be discussing Stephen King's The Running Man. So please let us know. Send us what you'd like us to talk about. And for now, I want to thank Lou, Karen, and all of you listeners for joining us. Be safe, be kind, and we'll talk soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And see.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.